have Alma Blazquez. Is that how I say it?
Yes, Blazquez.
Blazquez.
You did well.
Here to share with us her story, her how to be kind to yourself story, and how her kindness to herself, be gentle to herself, and have led her to something very magnificent that she want to share with us today. So we're going to start the program with Sarah, and then we're going to dive in here. But before we go to the program, I have something very exciting I want to announce with everyone. Sarah and I have talked it over, and we are in the transition, sort of, not a major change, but we are going to dedicate this platform to be the refugees' voices for the people that who still trapped in the refugee status, still in limbo status. But we're going to fill you in more and more on that. The last 2 days, on Monday and Tuesday, we have Jenna and we have Des coming on here to show us their kindness to the refugee students in Malaysia. And that's what we are doing. We're partnering up with them to dedicate this platform to be their voice, to be the voiceless voice. So more of that's going to come, but right now we're going to go right into the program. So Sarah, please help us start the program.
Okay, it's my job to kickstart our program and to say hello to you first, and I'm so glad that we meet again. And in case we have new viewers, I'm going to introduce myself. I'll go very quickly so we can have plenty of time for Alma to share her story today. I'm Sarah M. I grew up in Cambodia. As you probably know, that Cambodia gone through a very hard time, a very, very dark time. In the Khmer Rouge communist regime back in 1975. So I got caught in that. I almost died. Thank goodness I was able to survive and able to escape. So I escaped out from Cambodia and into United States. That's the blessing. Sometimes the bad thing that happened to you can be a blessing. So I consider it, I'm blessed to be here in this beautiful country, to meet all of you, the beautiful people. So my message for you is never give up, because if you're going through hard time, maybe the blessing is waiting for you ahead of time. Maybe you'll meet somebody who is kind, compassionate to help you along. So I just want to share with you quickly that I wrote my book. It's called How I Survived the Killing Field. If you want to know more about my story, you can go to my website, sarahm.com. And I'm also speak to share my message as well. So that's all. Back to you, Lee.
Sarah, thank you. We both are speakers and we both are authors, and we both are telling our stories of 40 years ago. So it takes courage and it takes a lot of compassion for ourselves in order to be vulnerable in front of public. So my name is Lea Tran. I didn't come from the jungle. I came from the sea because our family escaped out of Vietnam by sea, by boat. And like Sarah, we have multiple endangered time that almost didn't think that we would make it. But we did because of determination to survive. And, you know, the part that, you know, the blessing part, I mean, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be sitting here meeting Sarah and having a conversation with you. So not that we want to have adversity in our lives, but sometimes it does happen, and maybe it happens for a purpose. We don't design it. Maybe the creators design it so we can endure some of the tough times, so we can know what the sweet times taste like. So today we have, and again, if you want to know about me, leetran.com is where you can find out all about my story. I have a TEDx talk on my website. I have a book. I have a coaching program. So feel free to check me out. But today we want to talk about Alma. Alma has a very incredible story that how be kind to herself have led her to a place of recovery. And we would love to have Alma introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her backstory and the message that she is trying to convey today. Welcome, Alma.
Yes. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Sarah. It's so beautiful to have met you recently in Deborah Poneman's course. I first would like to say a disclaimer, because the way my story starts is not the way it ends. And I started my life, I say that it was one half idyllic and one half not idyllic. So as a young girl, under the age of 5, there were things happening in my home. We had a beautiful home. My parents worked hard. My grandmother lived with us, my mother's mom. She was very beautiful and loving, and yet there was a secret that was in the house. And so I overcame that by loving school. And I would get very good grades, and I'd love to draw, I'd like to run. So I became all those things because when I was in school, I didn't have to think about the parts of my home life that weren't all that much happiness for me. And then at 8 and 9, another event happened. And by the time I was 13, I was told who I was, and it's not who I felt I was. I had been voted the 8th grade valedictorian of my class, but yet I had some bruises on my body. And I didn't feel that I deserved to be valedictorian because I could never get up in front of people and speak about who I am. And they might find out about my life, and I didn't want them to find out. So at around 13, I decided I would maybe take my own life. I didn't think I would do it in a harmful way, but I just wanted God to take me. And I would lay awake thinking, God, if you could just take me in my sleep, I would be grateful. I was very depressed by the age of 13 because of other people's messages of who they thought I was. And then I get through that period because at the age of 4, I was introduced to none other than the church and God and Jesus and the Blessed Mother of Jesus. And immediately I knew that that was the truth. That was my truth. So I'm going to continue with how that at the age of 4 helps me to get through these times. And by the age of 17, I graduate early from high school in 3 years. I loved school, and I went to summer school to get extra credit. So now I'm out of high school, but my father will not allow me to attend the university at the age of 16. So I have to stay another year in high school and take electives of study periods where you just sit and read. And I had one gym class. I got very depressed that year. Both my brothers went into the Air Force, and I felt very much alone, 2 older brothers. So my mother and father and my grandmother, again, working very hard. When I'm 18, I'm on my bicycle and I stopped to take a break. And as I was approaching a stranger to my right, in my left, I heard my mother say, "Oh, you shouldn't wear short shorts like that. That's not good." And then on my right side, I hear my father's voice, not really hearing, but in my mind, I'm hearing, be kind to everyone. So by the time I think, should I say hello to this stranger or not, I'm already in front of that stranger. And I smiled, and he kind of smiled and said hi. So I did the same thing. And he grabbed my bike, and then he grabbed me. And for the next 10 hours, I was in big trouble. And I definitely had a near-death experience at that time. I fainted because he struck me very hard. And I remember being very afraid and feeling like an elephant had just stepped on my chest. So I went out of my body, and I had already experienced this when I was a little girl. And I saw two lights, and I knew that they were my angels. And there's more to this story, but we have limited time here. But I was told, the one thing I remember being told is, he will not like it if you cry. And it's like both angels were speaking at the same time, not with words, but just like penetrating in my mind to me. And I didn't cry that whole 10 hours. And I just listened, and I felt that they were telling me what to do, how to get out of that situation. And I did. So I kept that a very big secret. I was so ashamed of that, because within 5 minutes of escaping, I get on my bike, and now I'm sobbing, and tears are just flying all from my face through the wind of the high speed that I'm going now on my bike. And I see a police car, and I stop the police car, and I tell them what just happened. And they ridiculed me. They said, well, with shorts like that, no one will believe you. And the other one said, where did it happen? And, you know, I was so discombobulated at this time. All these buildings looked the same to me, and they were being rehabbed with scaffolding. So there were like 5 buildings with scaffolding that I remember coming away from. And I said, well, I'm not sure. But sometimes I said, I wish they would have asked me to get in the back seat and we would drive around, but that didn't happen. So I got home. It was around 6 a.m. when I finally got home, and my parents were asleep. My mother was slightly awake. I knew that I couldn't tell them because it would hurt them. In my culture, something like that would bring them such great anxiety and angst. And I didn't want to be the cause of that. So I kept it a secret. I told one friend, my best friend in high school, Jeannie. She came over that day. And about 10 years later, she and I were driving cross country, and I wanted to talk about it. So I asked her if she remembered that time when I was 18. And she said, no, not really. And I said, oh my gosh, if my very own best friend can't remember, then telling anybody would not be worth it, because then I would be disclosing something I'm very much, you know, feeling shame and guilt about. So I decided never to talk about it. And so I marry. There is another incident right after I'm 18, and I was accosted again by a person that my cousin and I knew, and my cousin Cecilia. And this young man was a bartender, and he said he had a gift for me in his car. I'm talking about these things because I'm trying to help young women to understand how to be safe. So I had seen him before, so I believed he had a little gift in his car, and he was just going to hand it to me. So my cousin said to me, that's okay, go, I'll be right here. So the car was right outside, but he asked me to sit in the car. And then before I knew it, he locked the doors. Oh. And again, there was another episode. I was almost 19. Between the 18-year-old and the 19-year-old incidents, I have very little memory. I could tell you everything I did almost in every year of my life except for that period. And I've had a lot of therapy. I've learned that that is called temporary amnesia. It's a survival instinct. But I got married at the age of 20 that very few people know about except my parents. I felt that it was a way that I would be finally safe and have someone look after me. But the odd thing is after we married, I didn't want to leave my parents. They were so accepting that I would get married at such a young age. And we really eloped. We went to the courthouse. And, but like I said, he was my safety valve. I wanted someone to look after me. My parents being so understanding, I moved back in with my parents, and me and this first husband really didn't have like a real marriage. So after that incident with that first marriage, which I really don't call a marriage, I moved to California. I joined the police department, and I'm having a good life. I get married. This is a real marriage with wedding dress in the Catholic Church with my childhood priest, Father Steve, marrying us. And right after that marriage started, there's physical abuse in that marriage, and there's emotional abuse. And I'm so embarrassed again that I have done something wrong. So I keep that a secret from my family. There's only one person that really knew, and that was another cousin, Olivia, in California. So after 6 years, I leave that marriage, and I get remarried in about a year and a half. I have my daughter. I leave the police department. I become a teacher. I move back to Chicago. And while I'm here in Chicago, I put my daughter down for a nap. And I turn on the television and I watch a program. It's a talk show. And they're featuring a woman. Her name is Marilyn Vanderbeer. She was 1958 Miss America. And she had suffered some of the same things that I had, sexual assault and in her family. And I couldn't believe that someone with that much stature, that much notoriety of being a beautiful woman and her family having a lot of money, I thought, oh my gosh, it can happen to anyone. It's happened to this woman. So her story really was the beginning of my healing, because I was not telling my story to anyone. The one who knew everything was God, was our Lord, was God. For me, the Blessed Mother, my true mother. So what winds up happening is I take every class I'm interested in. I get several degrees, I get straight A's. And then after the classes, I might take a craft class and make pillows. I did tie-dye. I made bird's nest out of twigs. I mean, I was just busy all the time. And I became a bodybuilder and a long distance runner.
Oh my goodness.
She's just full of accomplishment.
Incredible.
But you see, for me, the bodybuilding and the long distance running, which at the University of Illinois, I was on the track team for a year and a half, cross country. I was trained to run. It was all beautiful. To me, that was a gift. These were gifts helping me to get that energy out of that depression, because I was really fighting depression quite a bit. So here comes, my daughter is born. I'm very happy, and I'm remarried to her father, my true second marriage. And that turns out to be an emotionally abusive relationship.
Oh my God.
And so I go into these periods of just quietness, and I speak only to a few people that I trust. And what I do is, again, I take classes, I study, I get straight A's, and I get more degrees. And I run. One thing is, I'm a runner every day. I take a day off like every 10 days. And I don't run short distances. I mean, my short distances were 5 miles. My longer distances were about 15 miles. So it is my way out. And then I would work out with weights in the gym. And then I had my own weights at my home. And I felt I was doing okay. God knows more than we can even imagine. It is amazing and a mystery at the same time, but it's also the most beautiful thing is that God knows us more than we know ourselves. So one day I'm on a bicycle, I get hit by this hit and run car, and now I try my best to work. I was a school teacher now. I completed my degrees for teaching in early childhood and special education. My daughter has a head injury at the age of 4. So I decided to go into special ed and to study brain plasticity and how the brain really functions, how to strengthen her brain and her synapses and neurons and neural pathways and so on. So I am on this bike, I get hit, and now I spend the next year trying to do well, and I'm not doing well. I wind up getting both lupuses, about 4 forms of arthritis. I get degenerating spine disease. Oh, I landed on the handlebars to break the fall. I had a fully dislocated jaw, dislocated shoulders and hips, and I had to have a reconstructed upper and lower bowel and reconstructed bladder and full hysterectomy because everything was just very damaged. I didn't know for a whole year.
This is from a bike ride?
This is from the car hitting me on my bike. I flew up in the air. The hood of the car struck me head on, straight head on. It made an illegal U-turn at about 50 miles an hour while I entered the intersection. And I knew it was going to be bad, but even knowing it was going to be bad, as I was coming down, I said, okay, I need to break the fall with the handlebars. So I went in. And I did get a lot of injuries, but as I said, I wouldn't know how bad they were for about a year when I really couldn't walk after a year. I had to leave my teaching job and have the surgeries. There's more to the story. That's also in my memoir, which I'm finishing, and Sarah is helping me with that. I also have a writing teacher, but let me say that God knew that I was keeping secrets. God knew that I thought that I was taking care of myself. I thought that I was loving myself by being a runner, by coming home from school of a full day of taking my daughter to all of her classes and her after school activities and taking care of her. Being a wife, I was still married, and being a good teacher, I felt. And then still coming home to run, change into my running shoes and running outfit and run 7, 8, 9, 10 miles. I thought I was just on top of the world. I thought I had it all together. But then this car accident, which I believe was no accident, provided me a total gift of bountiful graces from God and our Lord and our Blessed Mother. I was able to lay down for the first time and actually rest since I was a little girl. Sleep was always difficult for me as a little girl. I was very hypervigilant. So after about 8.5 years, I'm not doing well. And I'm told by 3 spine specialists that if I do not have 9 spinal discs replaced, I will die a painful death. So I turned down the operations. I do not want more operations. By that time, I had counted about, I want to say 16 operations through my life. And so I accepted it. I told God I was ready. I thanked him for the years that I was given in life and all the beauty. I had traveled. I'd been to India and taught there, Tibetan Children's Village. And I was in China and I was taught there art. And I also visited a school there. I visited schools wherever I traveled, Australia, Mexico, of course, throughout the USA and in Europe. And those were my gifts. I always felt like no matter what was happening, God would give me these incredible gifts. Most importantly, the gifts came in people. So when I mentioned my writing teacher, he is a gift. When I mention the pastors in my life, the priests, all gifts, all my friends, all gifts. There's nothing more that then I learned that when we speak our truth to our closest friends, we can actually be known by them and they can love us more. Because by my being quiet, I was not allowing people to know me or to truly love me for who I really was, because I didn't love who I was. I was filled with shame and I felt worthless. I felt, this thing called fate, that events are predetermined. I thought, well, gee, if they're predetermined, what I learned in the Bible in Catholic school is if you're not a good person, bad things could happen to you. So that was a part of my guilt. Well, I learned otherwise laying down for those 8.5 years. I went into the hospital in March of 2012. I weighed nearly 90 pounds. I had come into severe seizures because I took myself off of all medications. I was on about 13 to 15 medications for all types of things now, including depression and anxiety. I have a near-death experience. I have a severe seizure. I'd learned to wrap my wrist, first my ankles and then my wrist, with the sheets of the hospital. And then I would have the seizure. So this seizure I felt coming on, I knew was going to be bad. I didn't know I was going to die. But I found that I opened my eyes and I'm standing on what looks like a diamond-like ground, kind of rough, with really tall towers of diamonds going off into the far sides. I can see a gate of heaven made out of stone, and I see a waterfall at my left. I'm just so curious as to where I am, and I say to myself, I've just died. I made it. I'm saying that in my head, I made it. Prayer is real. My daughter should know. And as soon as I said my daughter should know, I saw a little light come out of me and just come around like this. By the time it got here, I remember saying to myself, everyone should know, meaning prayer. And then the light went to the back, and then I forgot about my daughter. I forgot about everyone. I was just totally there in this realm that is called, I call it the Garden of Heaven. I was not in heaven. I was in a garden. And a giant white light comes and speaks to me audibly. You are here because you've come to me often. And I again say, my gosh, prayer, it was my prayer. It was prayer that has brought me here. And this light started to heal me. And these wisps would come out of it from different directions very slowly and touch my body. And I would follow it with my eyes. And I could see a touch of light, another touch of light, and I felt stronger, straighter. I had been hunched over for about 3 months, shaking. My spine would not stop shaking. But now I felt like I was going into perfection. I said, of course, this is what happens when you come to heaven and you're being made ready to enter. You come into perfection by God. And that is not God for me. That was the glisten of the eye of God, because in my belief system, I could never know God, not fully, not ever. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but in my system now, I believe I can only know and see a part of God. So after I asked this great glisten of the eye of God if it could judge me so I could enter, and I know that I did bad things, it gave me more love. And then it told me to be still. I kept thinking, and I said at one point, how can I be talking with you if I don't feel I'm breathing? And it answered immediately, I breathe for you. I have always been breathing for you. And it said little things to me that were just profound. I own everything there is. Everything belongs to me. I was supposedly thinking I was still, but my consciousness was still working. I saw souls on the side. I thought I was holding up the line. I thought we all passed away at the same time. It turns out that those people are people that I would come to meet in the future. At that time, I didn't know. It has taken me, and it's still part of my work, to be in my near-death experience, that one, the most profound one, when I was already 45, is when I got hit by the car, and now I'm 54 with the near-death experience. I still am in healing. My belief system in prayer and God and the instinct to survive, because God instills in us this great power that we don't even know what to call. I call it God, simply, the creator. That is what has helped me. So now I have been mentored by beautiful, wonderful doctors, Dr. Alan Botkin, Neil Grossman. I just have to mention them because they've helped me so much. I've done EMDR, which is a reprogramming of your traumatic experiences. And without the help of these two men, who have become my good friends, I would not be able to talk about this. I would literally sit and cry for days because I didn't want anyone to know. My beautiful cousin Cecilia has kept my secret of when I was 18 and a half with the second time that I was accosted. I never told people about the first time. That was when I was 18. And this is the first time that I am publicly speaking it. Sarah does know. I've shared it with Sarah. And of course, now some of my close friends know. It's my homework to tell those people that I trust and love.
Wow.
Wow. What an incredible story. And we want to thank you for sharing and be vulnerable and sharing your story here with us and with our audience. It's just unimaginable that what you've been through. My thought to you is stay away from the bike.
You know, I have not been on a bike since then. I was only on once to check my daughter's brakes.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It just seems like so many of the accidents are coming from the bike. And I was like, not the bike again. But that was quite a journey that you are going through. And I am so happy that you are on the road of recovery. And you are also very aware of that, how much love you needed from yourself first before you can actually share it with anyone else, because shames and guilt and all kind of things that Catholic guilt, right? I mean, I'm not a born Catholic, but I have been a Catholic for over half of my life. And yes, a lot of teaching that, you know, and even just being a regular woman, lots of guilt, lots of things that we are harsh on ourselves and we think that is our fault. That's why things happen. But I'm glad that you have found a way to honor that to God. I mean, I call it God too. So if folks out there want to call it the universe, want to call it the higher being, the divine, you know, it doesn't matter what you call it. But for people who believe in Christ, so we call God. And this show is not about religion. This show is about personal story.
Right.
This show is about the hardship that you've been through and how you thrive from it, and be able to write the story and share with people. And I can't wait to read your memoir, because that is such a traumatic experience. It almost sounds like one after the other, one after the other. And I thought, we have a pretty bad story. But,
No, it, as I said, it doesn't end the way it starts,
right.
because I had a lot of time to myself. And one day I said, God, I don't remember when I've had this much time to myself. And I immediately heard in my mind, because you never have. It is the first time for this time. And even that, I would write down every time I thought I was hearing the voice, the still voice of our God.
Yeah.
So one thing is, when I came out of the hospital, it did take me about 1.5 years to gain weight, to gain strength, 2 years to drive. And I finished my dissertation. I started to travel again in brain plasticity, 16 times to Denmark, other European countries, to teach and to learn in this brain plasticity program. And I still practice yoga every day.
There you have it. It's like you don't make excuses for all the things that you are incapable of doing, but you utilize that time to even further developing your growth, which is really admirable.
We can, I say this, we do have the excuse to be down because we're human. We can cry, we can grieve, we can do that for days at a time, but we must pick ourselves up.
Yeah, don't stay there.
Because God is really watching out for us. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
God is everywhere. There are two terms that people get mixed up: pantheism and penantheism. So pantheism is you see God in everything, God in nature, God as the universe, even that I've read. But penantheism is God is within and outside of you and is beyond the universe and owns everything there is. So
yeah. I think every person, you got to see God in them. Every person you're interacting with, there's a part of that, because we are the image of God. At least I like to believe that.
I do too.
Yes. So there's a lot to be learned here. That don't give up. Love yourself. Be gentle with yourself. And don't waste the time that you're down, because you can be down there and earn another degree. Why not? So that is so phenomenal, your story. It just, I am just like, it's a lot to digest what you've been through, but you turn it around and now you're writing a book and you're sharing with people and you help other people to move on. It is very true that we all have those moments of down. Cry about it. Go ahead. Take a day or 2 days, even a week if you need to. But if you stay there, you will get stuck. You will not going anywhere. You got to just wipe that tears and get up and start marching, because it doesn't matter if you march by foot or by brain, you're going to get somewhere. But if you stay there, then you're going to stuck for a long time. So.
And one thing I also learned was when this great glisten of the eye of God repeated to me about 4 or 5 times to be still. That's very true. Also be still. Try to listen to God. Try to listen to this great mystery.
Yeah, there's a verse in the Bible that says, be still and know that I am God.
Yes.
And sometimes be still, not to listen to God, but listen to yourself, because God is within you.
That's right.
And sometimes listening to yourself, reasoning about you. I mean, sometimes we're so busy in life, we don't sit down, we don't pause for a moment to see exactly the journey that we've been through. But it's very fascinating. Every single one of us have a journey that we can contemplate on and think about, what was good out of it? What is something that, you'd be fascinating if you just take a day and think about your own journey. That's all I can say. But everyone can walk out with a movie, with a book.
Right.
Yeah. Alma need to be, her story is the movie. So.
Yes. And just because I mentioned my daughter and the brain injury when she was 4, she's doing very well. She's an accomplished pianist now. 16 years of classical piano. I don't know how many years, maybe 14 years of training of guitar. And so she's in 2 bands, and she's very responsible. She's a beautiful young lady. And so I had to be her example. And that's why I went to school being so ill. I walked with a cane. It's the only way that I could have showed her that you can still do something while suffering. So suffering was one of the topics I know I wanted to touch on. I know we're out of time pretty soon, but if you learn to suffer well with God, talking with God, and you know, whoever you feel God is to you, the suffering is lessened and you will be graced.
Yeah, many times I know that we are, you know, approaching 40 minutes here. We supposedly usually end around, but we always go over time. But I think, you know, one thing is if we talk about suffering, and sometimes acknowledging that you are the person that you need to be loved. Give yourself plenty of love so you can actually share that love with other people. So compassionate is something that we're learning in this month, and we're approaching the very final end of the theme of the month of kindness and self-love and compassion. Sometimes self-love is kindness.
Compassion and self-love, especially when we are suffering, like Alma was saying, if we are suffering by ourselves without any help from God, it's really hard to come out. But if we acknowledge that God is with us, He can help us to go through that hard time.
Yeah, what I usually saying is like, I'm offered to you, just you lifted all my burden, and I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna let you worry about it, and then you tell me what to do, and I will listen to that.
That's right.
So yeah, so that's one way of loving yourself, is don't beat yourself up and be overwhelmed, and just say that I am gonna offer it to you, and you will take care of it. And I believe. Just have to say that you believe, because if you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in God, then life is pretty hopeless.
Well, that's my belief. And also, I do want to acknowledge that I met Sarah through Deborah Poneman. And she is a very loving woman. So I say this because I really appreciate people now. I could not be open. I would make jokes. I could be in a party and joke around, but for me to be serious, I was afraid people could see through me. So I wound up just learning to kind of act. Now I don't want to act. I just want to be myself.
Well, yeah, we always say that, fake it until you make it, right? So all my life I've been faking it too. So now is the time just to make it. Stop faking it, because we're done with the faking.
Right now, authenticity is the key.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Yeah.
Yeah, be transparent. So
Go ahead. So if people want to connect with you, and do you have any offer to, you know, any service or anything? How do people connect with you if they want to hear about your story, or you know, just get to know you?
Well, I can be contacted through IANDES.org or .com. Chicago